All right. Hey, hello, everybody. This is Buck Benny speaking. I am joined by Kathy Fuller Seeley. John Henderson is down there in
Hello.
the corner. Hi, John. And Terry Phillips is on my screen right down from me. I'm not sure where he is on your screen. So, anyway, but he's waving. Uh, all these folks do wonderful things. We all love Jack Benny in various ways, and we're all doing things either related to Jack Benny or related to old time radio. And so it's wonderful for us to be able to come out every week and spend with you folks. Today, we have a special presentation with you. We're going to have Johnny Carson's second appearance on Jack's show. And so it's really a tour de force for Johnny and really a cool episode, but we'll bring all that in here in just a minute. Let me just run through our people really quick. Kathy, of course, has her newest book out, which is Jack Benny's Lost Radio Broadcasts. This works much better when I'm not on virtual, so I can move it around and you can actually see it. So great book, and I love how it's by Jack Benny and Harry Kahn and edited by Catherine Fuller Seeley, because she could have said, "Oh, this is really me," but it's really the scripts. So it's the first 26 scripts of the Jack Benny show. 25 of them lost to time, so that's the only way to read them, and it's lovely reading them. You can hear the actors in your head, and it's great. We're trying to figure out a way to redo those at some point. John Henderson over there is host of This Day in Jack Benny. Am I right?
Yep, that's right.
I always try to remember it's Day Benny somewhere in there.
Think of like This Day in History.
Yes.
Only This Day in Jack Benny.
This Day in Jack Benny, which is wonderful. And so you play episodes from kind of the time of year we're in. I mean, it's sometimes not to the day, but it's pretty close, right? And so he does a weekly. He does one per week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then he also
and of
does.
Course, as everybody knows, I've got a feud with Buck here.
Yes.
When I was missing last week,
yes.
Can you believe it? Kathy, you were here. He had the audacity to claim that I was the Fred Allen in our feud. And you just sat
You heard that, did you?
Didn't say anything. I'm the Jack Benny. I don't even play Fred Allen on my podcast.
Oh, I do.
Portland, what are these people talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where you're coming from with that. I really do not, John. I'm nothing like Fred Allen. But that's right, John. And honestly, I had it set up. This whole bit in this episode is with the inner dialogue that goes on in the interviewer's head or whatever. And he's always delighted to present the person. So I was going to go around and do an inner dialogue for all of you and slam on all of you, but then I thought, it just seems so mean. I was like, I can't do it. So I just can't do it. So it's all good. And then Terry down there is hosts. He's doing a podcast / old time radio show that, and he can hold. Can you hold up your sign so we know where to go to get it?
Sure.
He's got a brand new episode that's up. His first 2 episodes are out there. It's www.imagine-air-theater.com. Wonderful place to go. It's a nicely put together site, and you can get to those. And like I say, the first 2 episodes are available. They're sort of in the style of Twilight Zone a little bit, and a delightful listen. And his actors are top notch, and that's the stumbling point of most things, is that they don't have actors that are slick, and his are really professional and well written. The whole thing's good, and it's short too. I mean, I think you're talking about a 15-minute commitment or something if you're going to listen to an episode. How long is the second one, Terry?
The second one is a little bit longer. It's I think 16 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
We broke the barrier.
I can give you 15, 16. I'll just have to not listen to the last minute, I guess. I don't know.
Most of that is credits, that extra time. So.
Okay. I just want to hear the credits. Well, I know you're doing it, so it's all good. I don't need to hear that. So it's all good. Anyway, so today's episode, Jack Benny, awesome. And with Johnny Carson. I know you've all seen it. Kathy, what kind of struck you as something that stuck out in this episode?
Well, I'm impressed that like Jack was always supportive of younger performers. You know, some people didn't want to ever give anybody else a leg up or were jealous of other people, but Jack's generosity with younger performers over the years. We were talking before the show about Jack Paar and the fact that he pushed Jack Paar to get a summer episode, you know, a summer show. And you say lent him the writers. I think it's fascinating. So I love, and we mentioned a rare opportunity since so many early Tonight shows with Johnny Carson don't exist, to see the format and the set and to see a sort of recreation of that. As people in this show was October 22nd, 1963.
Yeah.
As people in 1963 understood the show. It's just a terrific glimpse into that. And then the ending, oh, for heaven's sakes, that we talked about the other week with the robotic Jack is amazing. So
yeah, I had people asking me, they wanted to see the whole episode, that was a bit part, because we played that clip a few weeks ago. And so I thought, let's bring that in.
But just in case I don't get to say it at another time, if you're interested in Johnny Carson, who loved Jack Benny and Fred Allen, there's a marvelous sort of podcast, a recording you can hear through the University of Nebraska, Johnny's undergraduate alma mater. Johnny, in his later years, was so grateful for his time at University of Nebraska. He donated a whole bunch, like $10 million, to the theater department. And what the university did in gratitude was to put up his senior thesis. A 22-year-old Johnny Carson wrote, performed, and produced a recording that's about doing comedy on the radio. And he highlights he says unequivocally that his favorite performers are Jack Benny and Fred Allen. And this is like 1948. And so the amazing, I would have given the kid an A. You know, it's a very good senior thesis for an undergraduate, but it is marvelous to hear a 22-year-old who has, you know, you could tell it's Johnny's voice, and you could tell his admiration, and also what he knew about the construction of comedy. It all comes through in that. And so I highly recommend, if you have it's like 45 minutes long. You got a few minutes to spare ever, go to the University of Nebraska website and type in like Johnny Carson, and they'll take you to it. So
yeah.
Thanks.
And I don't think I've ever heard the whole thing, because I don't remember it being that long, but I've heard a big chunk of it, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of it. And it's really nice. I mean, it's Johnny's voice. You can totally tell it's young Johnny, and it kind of shows you how he got into comedy, and that for him, it wasn't, I don't know. For Jack, it just feels like a kind of a natural thing he does. I have no idea how natural it is for him or not. But with Johnny, it totally felt like, hey, I've studied the great comedians. I'm going to take what they do and present my own thing, and styled more from Jack than anybody else. And they play on that. They don't play on it so much in this episode, but the first appearance that Johnny had on the Jack Benny show, they definitely played up how similar Johnny was to Jack, and that Johnny was a young Jack, essentially. But let's flip it over to John. John, what of this episode kind of stood out for you?
Well, it's like you say, always fun to see Johnny Carson. He's very likable and charismatic, if nothing else. I'd actually heard Jack Benny before I ever saw Johnny Carson.
Oh, whoa.
But yeah, but
he's just that young.
Yeah. It's interesting to watch the Johnny Carson TV show, because it was on for so long that you see throughout the years, you know, different celebrities of the day going in, and yet Johnny Carson, other than the color of his hair, it seems like exactly the same.
Yes.
So I always like watching those old shows, and it's a fun window into the world of those times. But having him on the show was lots of fun.
Well, and this is about Kathy and I were figuring it out. It's about 1 year after he took over the Tonight Show. So he was still really fresh to the Tonight Show and everything at this point. He took over the Tonight Show in 1962. This episode's from 1963. So, and Terry, what kind of struck you about the episode?
First, Kathy, I want to ask you a question. Did you say this was broadcast on October 23rd?
22nd.
Or 22nd?
22nd. Well,
I will pull. I'm pulling out my Laura Leibowitz
She's doing her
here.
research right now.
if anybody would know, I presume you would. If it was the 22nd, it was the day before Johnny's birthday. He was born on the 23rd of October.
Oh, sweet.
And
22nd.
of October.
As Laura's book, October 22nd, 1960.
Right. So the next day was his birthday, and this year Johnny would have been 95 years old.
Wow.
3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
On the date of this recording, not in 1963.
Correct.
Yes.
The day of our conversation now. Johnny was old, but he wasn't that old. And I want to tell you, I'm a big fan of both Jack and Johnny, and I had I never got to see Jack Benny in person, but I did get to watch an episode of The Tonight Show being taped.
Wow.
And I had a friend who worked at NBC, so I got to watch from up in the control booth. And before the show, Ed McMahon came in, and he and I chatted for a couple of minutes. I saw Johnny walking by, and I thought, maybe I'll go and say hi to him. And then I thought, yeah, don't spoil it. Don't ruin it. So I let that go. But I was very impressed in this episode of the Jack Benny Show by Johnny's various talents, including the singing and dancing. And it reminded me that on his show, Johnny would occasionally, rarely, do some singing. And then I found that clip of him performing with the Rat Pack in Las Vegas. And Johnny had a very, very nice singing voice, as we all hear in this episode.
Right. Excellent. And for viewing and listening audience, I think I'll go ahead and it's a really short clip of the Rat Pack and Johnny. So I'll probably attach it on here either during our show or, well, heck, I'll probably drop it in right here. So right here, you got it. Now, we'll all enjoy it. Now, let's see. Here we go.
They heard the breeze through the trees, singing weird melodies, and they named that the start of the blues. And from a jail came a wail from a down-hearted frail, and they call that the start of the blues. From a whippoorwill high on a hill. How about that? They took a two note, pushing in a horn till it was born. I'll call you if I need you. Till it's a blue note. Get off the stage. And then they nursed it, and they rehearsed it.
How does it feel to sit in the back of the bus?
Then I came up the news that the Southland really gave birth.
Let's give Dean a chance.
It's up. Safe? 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 Am I safe? I'm safe. Stuck it in the hole. Forced it in a nut. Stuck it. Go on. Into it. Everybody, they rehearsed it. They rehearsed it. And they turned out the news. Back to the Southland. Yeah.
Wasn't that great? I loved it. He is so good. Of all of them, the whole Rat Pack was just amazing. What did you guys all think? It was just great.
Yeah, I think though in the episode itself that we're about to watch, I think it is overdubbed. Although you can tell by the tone of his voice that it is him singing.
Yeah,
right, but he lip synced to the performance from before.
Yeah.
I think you're right, John. I want to say one other thing,
which I would be a lot more comfortable with if I was him. So it's like, yeah.
I want to mention one other thing from that episode. I don't think this is a spoiler. He mentions that he was an usher. He actually was an usher, but not at CBS. He was an usher at a movie theater in LA or in the Midwest. I don't remember, but he had worked as an usher. But the joke that they refer to that he makes is going from being an usher to an usherette. Do you remember that in this episode?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, from people who don't know, that was a common joke that was made about Jack Benny, that he walked like a woman.
Right.
That's so funny.
Well,
can I mention?
It's awesome too that Jack was an usher at the time of this episode. So he's always trying to make a little extra money, and that's what he did. John, you were going to
say a couple of references or things that, talking about things that young people might not know. The song that the guy sings is "Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?" And of course, it's most famously sung by Al Jolson. And you'll notice he kind of goes into a "brother, can you," sort of an Al Jolson impression in that. And the other thing, which obviously we've all heard of, but maybe there's some young people out there who've only heard of pranks on YouTube. But they used to have this television show called Candid Camera.
Oh, yeah.
And what they would do is they would hide a camera, and they would sort of like pull a prank on somebody. And and it was always hilarious. It was like the original prank show, reality show. And of course, it was hosted by the famous Alan Funt. And so I looked it up. In 1963, going into this season from last season, Candid Camera was the #2 television program.
Wow.
Yeah, the #1 was Beverly Hillbillies. Can you guess where Jack Benny sat?
In 1960.
1963.
1960. Okay. Jack would be down the list of ways, I would think, like number 9.
Number 9. Any other guesses?
Well, definitely top 10, but maybe higher than that. I'd say 5.
5.
15. I'll take the low point.
15. Well, I don't know. Is it closest without going over, or closest altogether? It was number 12.
12. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he got in trouble the next year, wasn't it, in 64, that the CBS vice president of programming, gave him the axe. And
yep. So. They gave him the axe way too early. That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But
and then he went back to NBC after all those years.
But was he not in the top 10 in many of the years that he was on television?
The early years, yeah, for sure.
Well, it's hard to tell, because in more than the first half of the 50s, he was only on occasionally, like once a month.
Oh, that's right.
He was on a rotating show with
right.
somebody's secretary. And so it's hard to gauge exactly the ratings, because he wasn't on every week. But by from 59, 50, the late 50s onward, he started to be on every week. And that's kind of amazing, too, if you just think that much more production. Weekly, 26 or 39 episodes.
Right.
And he's not getting any younger. So
no, that's the thing. And so he kept on making it, I was going to say harder on himself, but whatever, the network, whoever just made these decisions or forced him to make these decisions, or whether he was totally on board, I don't know. But it did get more complicated as he went, because when the radio show went off, he was doing, I think, 13 a year, and he did 13 a year for the next 5 years after the radio show was gone. And so then I would think those years would have been his real easy years, because he had been doing the radio and the TV, and now he was just focused on the TV. But then in 1960, right, 1960 is when he went up to full seasons, and that full season was a lot, like 30 or something episodes. Yeah.
Right, and only nerds like us might appreciate that CBS was doing him dirt, because they started playing reruns of his program in the mornings while he was still on once a week at night. So they were cannibalizing, there was a little bit too much Jack Benny going on, and there was almost nothing he could do about it. And so
I'm sure you all noticed this, but again, for some of our younger listeners or viewers, they might not be aware, and certainly listeners wouldn't know because it's only visual in the credits, that the director and producer of this, I guess all of the Jack Benny Show television programs was Freddie de Cordova, who became Johnny Carson's producer on The Tonight Show.
And they mention that a lot on the Tonight Show appearances. When Jack's on there, they'll make jokes about Freddie and how they both worked with him and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And Freddie has a book out I've read before. It's a fast read. It's short, but it's Johnny Came Lately, I think is the name of the book, or something like that. And because it has Johnny as a piece of his career, but then it goes into Jack and it goes into all these things. So of course the joke is that Johnny is his most recent thing, but I have this whole life before Johnny, and here's what it is. So great book. Anyway, tonight's episode, the other thing I wanted to point out with tonight's episode was something we've all talked about before earlier, is that that Johnny and Jack do this bit where they're interviewing. It's the whole interview thing that Johnny does on his show, but you get to hear what's going on in the minds of the different of the interviewer and interviewee. Right. And it's a fun little bit. And the first time I ever heard the bit was back on the Jack Paar show in 1947 in radio. And we'll play you a little clip of that
Have
right
you
now.
ever wondered what the guest star and the comedian really think when they stand up there and compliment each other? What do you suppose is going on in their minds? What are they saying to themselves? It would be interesting to find out, wouldn't it?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, our guest star, Dennis Day.
Thank you. Hello, Jack. Gosh, it's certainly great being here. What's great about it? On a nice Sunday like this, me and my mother could be out with a girl.
And Dennis, it's certainly great having you here.
What's great about it? For what I'm paying him, I could have my choice of any two of the Andrews sisters in a corned beef sandwich.
Thank you, Jack. And did I tell you, you certainly look wonderful. You're the picture of health. How long can he last? Gee, I wonder if I can take over his show after the funeral.
It's very kind of you to say so, Dennis. But you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say that you look the picture of health.
I'd swear the kid has rickets.
Say, tell me, Jack, how do you like having your own show?
It's wonderful, Dennis. I just hope I can be as successful as you've been this year.
Oh, I'm sure you will be, Jack.
But, Dennis, do you realize what you've accomplished? You're on a Jack Benny show, the star of your own show, great guest appearances, record albums, everything.
Well, believe me, Jack, with the right breaks, plenty of other performers could have done the same thing. Oh. Dennis Day, I dare you to name one.
Oh, now, Dennis, you're much too modest.
Modest, the kid's got 2 programs already, and he's still punching. If he could find the right girdle, he'd try to be John's other wife.
Oh, by the way, Jack, is there anything I can do to get your show off to a good start? I hope he asked me to sing Glockamora. I do it great. To hear me, you think I was a native Glockamoran.
Well, it would be nice if you'd sing one of those Irish songs you're so famous for.
If he sings Glockamore again, I'll blow my brains out.
I'd love to sing an Irish song, Jack. After all, I can't deny that I'm a son of old Ireland. If he only knew I'm really an Armenian.
What's it going to be, Dennis?
I'm praying it's not Glockamora.
How about Glockamora?
My favorite number.
I'd be a sucker to let him sing. He'd make me look about as important as Margaret Truman's piano player.
Say, Dennis, I've got a great idea. You and I will sing Glockamora as a duet.
A duet? That is a great idea, Jack. How do you like this schmo trying to horn in on me? One song with him and my hooper will be dragging. Me. me. Uh-oh, I've got a frog in my throat, Jack.
Oh, frog in your throat. Oh, that's too bad.
A frog. He should have Morton Downey in his throat.
Sorry, we can't sing the duet, Jack. The old throat just closed up on me.
Well, I guess we'll have to do something else. I know. We'll tell some jokes, and you'll be the straight man.
Me, the straight man? Me? Me? The old throat just opened up on me. I think I can sing now. How are things in Glockamora?
Wait a minute.
Is that little brook still leaping
Hold
there?
it, kid.
Does it still run down?
Look, Dennis.
Johnny Coles,
Please, look.
Billy Bates,
Look, kid.
Kill Terry
Look,
and
Dennis, wait a minute.
there. How are
Wait a
things
minute.
in Glockamora?
Wait a minute!
Yes, please.
Thank you and good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Day appeared with us tonight through the courtesy of his sponsor.
Sponsor. Dennis Day appeared with us tonight through the courtesy of money.
There you go. Wow, that was phenomenal. And we're back again. Now you can compare that clip when the actual show starts up and see what they do on the show. You're going to find it's very similar. But there's a good reason it's similar, because the writers from Jack's show, when Jack Paar got his show in the summer of 1947 as a replacement for Jack's show, he took all of Jack's writers to be part of his writing team. They weren't his whole writing team, but they were a piece of it, at least consultants on his scripts. So I assume that's why they felt like they could take that piece, because as you listen to it, you're going to realize, okay, this is like almost identical. And so, but it's a great piece. And this whole Johnny episode where you get to see him play the drums and you get to see all the things he does is fantastic. I also love that they have them sitting behind a desk, a remake of Johnny's set almost. And back at the time in 1962, and certainly the end of the Jack Paar years on The Tonight Show, they wouldn't have the guest like traditionally on the couch. They would have the guest sit behind this giganto desk that they can fit two people behind, and there'd be two mics there, and that's exactly the situation they create on this. The only other thing I was going to point out, which I thought was hilarious, is Jack pulls out supposedly a review that he's looking at. And you can tell the resolution is too high. They should have like used a newspaper or something, because there's nothing. It's blank paper, and it's like you're going, oh, it's completely blank on both. And he flips it around so you get to see both sides. And you're like, it's blank on each side. So, but it is what it is. But anything else stick out for anybody that they want to mention for the episode or anything, or? We good?
I don't want to spoil anything. It's a great episode. So
it is.
Yeah.
It's a fun episode altogether. A lot of Johnny, featuring him, probably a longer take of him as the guest than we usually get. He's on a huge section of the episode, which is fantastic. And they do so much different things. You don't usually see them jump from thing to thing like they did this episode so much, and that's awesome. So you're in for a real treat, and I think you guys are going to love it. So we'll let it go there, and enjoy this week. Enjoy this time with Johnny Carson. You never know. I might throw some extra goodies in there if I can find any other clips that I want to throw in there. But join us next week. I don't know if next week we're going to do the very first Jack Benny show or not. It actually came out on the 28th of October of 1950. So I thought, heck, if we're going to do this, it's 70th anniversary, right? That it's going to have? Yeah. So it's like, let's do that on the 70th anniversary. We'll either do it next week or the week after. But
Cool.
I'd like to have us all be able to do that. And since that episode actually exists and in pretty decent quality, it's got a few issues here and there, but it's a great thing to watch. We'll be bringing that to you upcoming soon. Like I say, and then I don't know. I'll look around and see what I want to bring us for next week. But anyway, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time. Everybody say bye. Bye, ta-ta. Oh, and John, I was thinking, as you did the Al Jolson, of our feud, you're not really necessarily Fred Allen. Maybe you're more the Al Jolson of the feud. I'm not sure. So
what? There's no Al Jolson in the feud.
There is now.
From Hollywood, the Jack Benny Program. With Jack's special guest, Johnny Carson.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Now, on various occasions, I have walked out here on the stage and talked about the fan mail that I have received. Some good, some bad. But there are other ways besides fan mail where people show their appreciation. Like, for instance, well, how do you like this beautiful blue tie that I'm wearing? This came from a fan, you see. And take these shoes. They're a gift, too. See, and these shoes are made of real, genuine alligator skin. See? And, well, they didn't actually send me the shoes, you see. When I opened the box, there was a live alligator in it. I had to beat it to death. And it was a species, a most dangerous species of alligator. I don't know the name of it, but it had a long blue tongue. The knot is one of his tonsils.
Mr. Benny. Mr. Benny.
People have sent in.
Benny.
Yeah. Oh, so soon?
Yes, right now. Right now.
Oh, well, I didn't expect. Oh, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't expect to do this so early in the show. But you see, Don Wilson is on the corner of Hollywood and Vine doing one of those, man-on-the-street interviews.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Don Wilson speaking to you from the corner of Hollywood and Vine. I'm just going to chat with some of these good people passing by here and ask them what they think of our fine sponsor. Mister, excuse me. May I speak with you for just a moment, please?
Me?
Yeah.
Hey, that's a microphone. Don't try to hide it. Hey, I know what you're doing. You're Alan Funt and I'm on candid camera.
No, I'm not Alan Funt.
Don't kid me. Boy, you look a lot fatter in person than you do on TV. Hey, what night is this show gonna go on?
But, mister,
Hello, Alice, Elsie. Those are my sisters. Mr. Funt, they always watch your program.
Look, that's just what I'm trying to tell you. You're not going to be on candid camera.
Oh, I'm not good enough, huh? You don't think I'm important? Well, let me tell you something, brother. I used to be a very big man. Once I built a railroad, made it run against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done.
Jack, take it away to the studio. Take it away, Jack.
Well, it seems that Don is having a little musical trouble, so we'll get back to him later. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to get on with the show, it gives me great pleasure to present a young fellow who is doing a marvelous job on his own Tonight Show in New York City. Mr. Johnny Carson. Johnny, I want to welcome you to my program and welcome you back to Los Angeles.
Thank you, Jack. You know, I can't tell you how exciting it is to me to be here because I started right here in television about 12 years ago.
Right here in Los Angeles?
Well, not only that, but strangely enough, right in this very studio. I used to be an usher.
You were an usher in this studio?
Right.
You mean you used to be one of the fellas who would let the people in to see my show?
No, the other fellas let him in. I had to keep him in.
Keep him in?
I was sort of the opposite of a bouncer, Jack.
Oh. Well, now, Johnny, I know you're kidding.
You know.
I know you are. You're just making this whole thing up.
Well, you know I am, Jack. Can I tell you something honestly, though? When I was an usher here, 12 years ago, I used to watch you all the time.
Really?
And you were my idol. And watching you do your show was like kind of going to school. And I started to emulate you. You know, pretty soon I was moving my hands like you do. Mm-hmm. And after a little while, I was even walking like you do. And before you know it, I was no longer an usher.
What happened?
They made me an usherette.
Now, Johnny, getting back to you, you know, I know how accustomed you are to working in a certain set on your own show, so I wanted to make things as comfortable for you as possible.
Really, Jack?
Yeah. Now, I'll show you what I did. Open the curtains, please.
What do you mean? I'll show you.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jack, I'll tell you one thing. You were right. You know, it does make me feel more comfortable and more relaxed. Just like home.
Well, I'm glad. Because, Johnny, you know, I'm glad to hear you say that because I have a few suggestions that I'd like to make. Now, I watch your show all the time, you see, and I have some suggestions to make that I think are of value. I hope you won't mind.
Mine? Jack, are you kidding? I mean, suggestions coming from a man who's been in show business for years and years and years and years and years. Jack, aren't you going to stop me?
Why should I? My career hasn't even started yet. Now, Johnny, I think you're a great comedian. Well, I really do. But I have a suggestion to make. If you want to remain in show business and stay up there, I mean, you better start to develop some other kind of talent instead of just sitting behind that desk talking. That's not enough. There's a question how long you can get away with it.
I think I know what you mean. Now, you, for example, you just weren't satisfied with being a comedian and a monologist. You also mastered the violin.
Exactly. Now, that's the point I'm trying to bring up, Johnny. You should learn, have something else to do.
Well, Jack, now, I've never capitalized on this, but I can do some card tricks.
Card tricks?
Yes, I have a deck of cards here with me.
Oh.
Maybe I can show you what I mean. Deck of cards, you see? I'll mix them up a little bit here. And we'll cut them. That? It's here like this, you see? Is that what you meant, Jack?
Well, Johnny, look, everybody does card tricks. They do it at parties. They drive you nuts with it. I think you should take up something, you know, perform like with a musical instrument or something like that.
Well, now, let's see. Now, about 20 years ago, I used to fool around with the drums a little bit. Now, I suppose I could, you know, get them out of the attic and brush up.
That's what I mean. That's the thing. Wait a minute. You can try it right now if you'd like.
Now?
Certainly. Well, hey, fellas, would you bring out the drums, please?
Well, you got everything here, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Nice. alligator skin?
I had some left over. Now, go ahead.
Jack, I really don't know. It's been so long since I played this.
Well, do the best you can. What's the difference?
Okay. How was that, Jack?
Well, I don't know. To me, without the fife and flag, it's nothing.
No. Jack, I'll tell you what. Maybe I should just, forget about the drums. They're very noisy anyway, and I'll just stick with my singing and my dancing.
Oh, well, don't bother. You got the point.
I'd like to.
I know, but we haven't got time
to see
now.
if I did,
I know, but we haven't the time.
Hit it.
First you put your two knees close up tight, then you sway them to the left, then you sway them to the right. Step around the floor kind of nice and light, then you twist around and twist around with all your might. Stretch your loving arm right out in space, then you do the eagle rock with a style and grace. Swing your foot way round, then bring it back. Now that's what I call ballin' the jack. Around and twist around with all your might. Stretch your loving arms right out the space. Rock with a style and grace. Swing your foot way round and bring it back. Now that's what I call ballin' the jack.
Now, Johnny, I don't know why I had to drag all of these things out of you. If you're that versatile, why don't you do some of that stuff on your own show?
Well, I'll tell you why, Jack. To be honest, I'm too busy acting.
Acting? You call that stuff that you do sitting there behind that desk, you call that acting? What kind of acting is that?
Jack, you remember the last time you were on the show with me?
Yes.
Do you remember what you said or what we talked about?
I think I do.
Well, now, let me show you something. Now, as long as you went to all the trouble to bring my set here, why don't you go backstage, and I'll reintroduce you, and I'll recreate that portion of the last show when you were with me, and I'll show you what acting. Go backstage. I'll give you the regular introduction like I gave you.
Then you'll show me that you can act?
I'll show you exactly what I mean. Just go on backstage. Please. I'll give you the big introduction, then you come out and sit and we'll talk. Now, Jack thinks that I can't act. I don't have to on this show. But you see, what the audience doesn't realize half of the time is that, well, they don't know what I'm really thinking. You know, the thoughts that actually go through my mind when I'm talking to one of the guests. I'd like to show you what I mean by acting. Are you ready, Jack?
Okay.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I come to one of those rare moments that makes this entire program worthwhile to me. A chance to introduce one of the all-time greats of show business. A man who's not only talented, but tremendously versatile. And certainly one of the sweetest and most lovable individuals in all of show business. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Jack Benny. Look at him milk that applause. He's doing everything but curtsy. Welcome to the show. Oh,
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you, Johnny. I want to thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction.
Well, Jack, you certainly deserved it. Why should he thank me? He wrote it himself.
You know, Johnny, I came to New York to relax and see a few shows, you know, and enjoy myself. Understand? And I was hoping I wouldn't have to make any personal appearances on television shows. And how you found out that I was in town, I'll never know.
Well, Jack, let's just say it was one of those happy accidents. Happy accident. He's been in town 3 days, called me 29 times.
Johnny, I'm sure you didn't ask me to come over here just to sit down, so what would you like to talk about?
Well, Jack, I don't think it makes any difference in the world. I think my audience would be interested in, well, in whatever you have to say. I think they'd hang on every word.
Well, all right, let's see. What shall I talk about? You know, I've had a lot of interesting experiences.
Oh, I hope he doesn't bore us with that story about what happened to him in Chicago.
Oh, I must tell you a story about what happened to me when I was playing at the State Lake Theater in Chicago.
Wonderful, Jack. Wonderful. You know, I never get tired of that story. I've heard you tell it at least a dozen times. Parties and benefits, and you do it so beautifully. Please, please tell it again. For this alone, I should get an Emmy.
Now, in order for you to appreciate the story, I have to read you a review I got on my act.
Oh.
You see, at the State Lake. I got it right here. Sometimes I carry it with me, sometimes not. You know.
That the review?
Yes. This is it right here. Oh, it starts on the other side.
Some review. I've got a shower curtain smaller than that.
Now, I have to read the whole thing because every word is important. I just want to clean my glasses a second.
Oh, I've just got to stop him. I know. I'll fake a commercial.
Now, here we are.
Jack, I know you'll forgive me, but I have to interrupt here. It's time for a commercial. You understand? Business before pleasure.
Listen, I've been in this business long enough.
I know you'd understand, Jack.
Sure, I can read this after a while.
Ladies, you know, there are times when you're just too tired and you don't want to take out the vacuum cleaner, and yet there is dust and dirt and lint on the floor, sometimes even scraps of paper. Time to take out the old whisk broom and just... And, of course, your floors, again, are sparkling clean. Go ahead, Jack. Oh, for God's sakes. Look what I did. I tore up your review. I'm sorry, Jack.
Well, that's all right, Johnny. I just happen to have another one here with me. Sometimes I have two, I know. Right here. I'll read this later. But they'll love this.
I know.
I'll read it. But I'll tell you, I'd rather play the violin. Now, you know, I brought my violin and I put it here.
Really?
I'd rather play the violin.
Look, Jack, I'll tell you what. Look, I don't think it's necessary you play the violin. The only reason I wanted to do this scene was to show you how much acting I have to do on my show. And I think we've accomplished that.
I have a feeling that you don't want me to play the violin.
Exactly.
All right, all right. Down with the curtain, fellas. Now, Johnny, you've proved to me that you're a very versatile young man, and I want to thank you for being on my show.
Well, Jack, thank you. It's been a lot of fun. And may I say one thing to the audience?
Yes, correct.
I don't want them to feel that the scene we just did, anyway, reflects how I feel about you. I think Jack Benny is one of the greatest artists of all times and a wonderful performer. And Jack, I'm amazed how you go on year after year. Never seem to change at all. I don't know how you do it. But whatever the secret is, you found it. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. He's sweet. But I don't know what's so amazing about it. I mean, practically every guest star I have says the same thing. You know, when you love show business like I do, you stay in it some way or another. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to play, for a change, something classical. The Wieniawski Concerto.
Oh, hi, Mr. Carson.
Oh, excuse me, fellas. I didn't know anybody was in here.
Oh, that's all right. We're just waiting for Mr. Benny to come off stage.
Well, he ought to be in a couple of minutes. He's just winding up the show now. I thought I'd borrow a little of his cold cream to take the makeup off.
How'd the show go?
Oh, great. As usual. You know something? That Jack Benny is absolutely amazing. I mean, the way he goes on year after year. He never seems to get any older. He looks the same year in and year out. I can't imagine how he does it.
Well, that wraps up another one. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the...
Must have pressed the button.
How long has this been going on?
We don't know. We started 15 years ago.
Well, Johnny, don't breathe a word of this to anybody, will you? I'll be back as soon as I can pull myself together. But first... Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed the show. How about that finish we had? Wasn't that the most ridiculous thing you ever heard of? I want to thank Johnny Carson for being on my show, and I'll be seeing you folks soon.